What's up, everyone? Welcome to an episode of Rich Talks BS. I'm your host, Rich. Week 16 in the NFL was very interesting, as it's still not a clear path or clear picture of who's actually going to make the playoffs and who's actually not. There's still 7 spots out of the 14 spots available. Week 17 is going to show, and week 17 is actually, pretty much obviously going to put in the last teams to make the playoffs. But week 16 was very interesting. Teams not giving up, teams coming up, teams just having to work harder to get that playoff spot. So we're going to start with the Christmas Day game. Vikings Saints. Vikings 33, Saints 52. Cousins with 291 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Cook with 15 rushing attempts, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 90 rushing yards as a team. Thielen with 8 catches, 97 yards, 1 touchdown. Jefferson with 6 catches, 85 yards, and Irv Smith with 6 catches, 53 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Breeze had 311 yards passing, 2 interceptions. Kamara with 22 rushing attempts, 155 yards, 6 touchdowns. Murray with 11 rushing attempts, 72 yards. Taysom Hill had a touchdown also. They had 264 rushing yards as a team. Emmanuel Sanders with 4 catches, 83 yards, and Cook with 3 catches, 82 yards. With that win, the Saints clinched the NFC South title, and this is their 4th straight. Vikings have scored 26 or more points in 6 losses, most this season. That's crazy to be scoring that many points and still losing. That means your defense is not working. Your defense is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And watching this game, it's just crazy how this defense is just allowing teams to keep scoring as much as they've been scoring all year. And, the way the defense is losing the game. The momentum of the defense, with the defense being on the field so much, that's making the offense lose their momentum. That's how this game was looking. It kind of got out of hand, and then the Saints just eased off the pedal a little bit towards the end. Saints have 200 more rushing yards for the 3rd time this season. Breeze is the first player ever in NFL history with 80,000 career passing yards. Breeze is just, I guess you can say, breezing through his career. He's had a tough career. He's only got 1 Super Bowl, but to reach 80,000 passing yards and the first player to do it, that's amazing. Next, we got the Saturday game, Bucks Lions. Bucks 47, Lions 7. Brady with 348 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Sat down in the 3rd quarter, of course, obviously. Gabbert with 143 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Keyshawn Vaughn, 15 rushing attempts, 62 yards. Fournette, 9 rushing attempts, 34 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 111 rushing yards as a team. Mike Evans with 10 catches, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. Godwin with 5 catches, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. Gronk with 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. And AB with 4 catches, 1 touchdown. They had 4 sacks as a team also. Chase Daniels, 89 yards. Stafford got injured in the 1st quarter, so they had to bring in Chase Daniels, which he didn't really do much. Swift had 10 rushing attempts for 45 yards. He also had a fumble loss. He also had 4 catches for 25 yards. They had 73 rushing yards as a team. Amendola had 5 catches for 37 yards. This Bucks defense is starting to look better. It was against the Lions. Lions are not, the best team in the league, or pretty much like one of the worst teams in the league. They haven't been doing anything all year anyway. This was a good practice game, is what I'm gonna call it, for the Bucks. A good game to get everybody back in the rhythm, especially going into the last week of the season and going into the playoffs. They clinched the playoff berth, with this win. That's actually the Bucks' first playoff berth since 2007. Brady's 12th straight season with clinching a playoff spot. It's longest by any quarterback in the Super Bowl history, in Super Bowl era. Bucks now have 13 sacks in their last 3 games. Like I said, their defense is stepping up. Their defense is looking better. Their defense was already, pretty good anyway. But, last couple of weeks, last few games, they've been doing a lot better, and it's starting to get them in the right direction and get them the right momentum, especially going into the playoffs. Brady has thrown 3 or more passing touchdowns for the 15th time since turning 41. That's most than the rest of the NFL combined in such games at that age. Brady still looks good. Brady is Brady, and we're starting to see that Brady is good. Especially being away from the Patriots. Coming to this new system, coming to this new team, and still doing what he can do. The Lions defense has allowed 40 or more points for the 5th time this season. That's the most in a single season since 1948. Like I said, this defense is bad. The Lions team is bad in general. I mean, there's a lot of changes that need to be done in this Lions organization, and it has been for a long time anyway. Next, we got 49ers Cardinals. 49ers 20, Cardinals 12. CJ had 182 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had a fumble loss. Jeffrey Wilson, 22 rushing attempts, 183 yards. He had 1 catch for 21 yards, and that was for a score. They had 227 rushing yards as a team. George Kittle, his first game back, 4 catches, 92 yards. Jasek, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. They had 3 sacks as a team. Murray with 247 passing yards, 1 interception. He also had 8 rushing attempts for 75 yards. Drake with 18 rushing attempts, 45 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 120 rushing yards as a team. Kirk with 7 catches, 76 yards. Hopkins with 8 catches, 48 yards. They had 3 sacks as a team also. Hopkins ended the day tied for first in receptions with Diggs. And Fitzgerald has 50 or more catches for the 17th straight season. It's the longest streak in NFL history. This Cardinals team is struggling anyway. It's gonna be hard for this team to succeed in the playoffs. They're just struggling offensively, defensively. To allow this 49ers team to put up the numbers that they did, this defense just bombed. Just struggled. And while they're struggling, their offense is struggling. Murray's not been, doing well. He's been injured from time to time, but still being able to play. He's not really having time to heal, not really having time to rest, especially because of the playoff race and it's so deep in the season, which kind of sucks on his part. Like I said, he needs a little bit more rest. He needs a little bit more time to heal, and he's not getting that time. Next, we got Dolphins Raiders. Dolphins 26, Raiders 25. Tagovailoa had 94 passing yards and 1 touchdown. He got benched, so Fitzpatrick had to come in, do a little Fitz magic. 182 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Gaskin had 14 rushing attempts for 87 yards. He also had 5 catches for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 130 rushing yards as a team. Gesicki had 4 catches, 54 yards. Jakeem Grant, 5 catches, 43 yards. They also had 3 sacks as a team. Carr with 336 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Jacobs with 13 attempts, 69 yards. They had 104 rushing yards as a team. Aguilar had 5 catches, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown. Waller with 5 catches, 112 yards. They also had 3 sacks as a team. Daniel Carlson was 4 for 4 from field goals. This game was really good. For the Dolphins to make that comeback, for Fitzpatrick to come in and I guess do what he does, with the little Fitz magic, coming in as the backup, coming in for Tagovailoa, coming in, Tua was just having a bad game, 2 consecutive turnovers, and then he got benched. The Dolphins still got a chance for the playoffs. Right now, they're sitting in a spot, but they have to win out, win this last game to get in. And this Dolphins team looks good. The defense looks good. The offense is what's really struggling. It's crazy that they're struggling like this. Especially the way how their defense is playing. Their defense should be their momentum to keep it pushing, keep it rolling, and it's just kind of crazy that it's happening like that. Next, we got Falcons Chiefs. Falcons 14, Chiefs 17. Ryan with 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Ito Smith 10 rushing attempts, 46 yards. They had 90 rushing yards as a team. Ridley with 5 catches, 130 yards. Hurst with 5 catches, 47 yards, and 1 touchdown. They, as a team, they had 4 fumbles and lost 1 of them. Mahomes with 278 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Also, he was on the end of an interception. Mahomes was, as Watkins on the trick play with the pass to Mahomes, that resulted in an interception. Darrell Williams with 10 rushing attempts, 46 yards. They had 117 rushing yards as a team. Kelsey with 7 catches, 98 yards, 1 touchdown. Hill with 4 catches, 65 yards. Robinson also had a touchdown, and they had 4 sacks as a team. Younghoe Koo has been great all season, but he missed the game time field goal. That's what killed this Falcons team. This Falcons was up. Chiefs made their comeback. Koo had a chance to tie the game, which he's been pretty much Mr. Automatic all year, and then he missed the game time field goal. Chiefs have won 7 straight games by 6 or fewer points, which is the longest streak in NFL history. This Chiefs team is still good, but for some reason they've been struggling last weeks, and I don't know if it's they just let the gas off the pedal, which now the Chiefs is starting to look like an Andy Reid team, because Andy Reid will put the foot to the metal at the beginning of the season, middle of the season, and then towards the end of the season he lets go. He didn't do it last season, but this season he's doing it again. So now Andy Reid is starting to look like Andy Reid, which is is kind of a good thing. I mean, you have Mahomes. This is your best quarterback ever, that you've coached. And to have Mahomes, turn it on and turn it off whenever he wants, I guess is a good thing. But you still kind of need a better momentum going into the playoffs, especially in the AFC. You want to be able to beat Buffalo. You want to be able to, beat Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Those are the teams that you really got to look out for. But those are the teams you really want to, be ready for. You already got the first round bye, but be mentally focused. Be mentally ready for this AFC playoffs. Next, we got Bengals Texans. Bengals 37, Texans 31. Brandon Allen had 371 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Perine with 13 rushing attempts, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bernard had 16 attempts, 65 yards. He also had 7 catches for 66 yards. They had 169 rushing yards as a team. Higgins with 6 catches, 99 yards, 1 touchdown. Erickson with 6 catches, 88 yards. Watson with 324 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 5 rushing attempts for 38 yards. He had 2 fumbles, but he only lost 1 of them. David Johnson with 12 rushing attempts, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 166 rushing yards as a team. Cooks with 7 catches, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Watson is the fastest player to reach 100 or more passing touchdowns and 15 or more rushing touchdowns since 1970. He's done that in 53 games. This game was interesting, especially with the Bengals coming off that Steelers win, last week. Texans been struggling all year. Their defense has been struggling all year. Deshaun is still doing his thing. He's still putting up his numbers. He just don't have the right weapons around him. David Johnson was great. David Johnson is starting to look like David Johnson. Rushing for over 100 yards. He's been doing his thing lately. He's starting to fit in with Watson, which is a good thing, because as you can see, he can run and he can catch. So being that receiving running back is also good, but you gotta have better weapons around you. Your receivers are not what they are. You have a bunch of 3 receivers, to me, a bunch of 3 receivers and maybe a 2 receiver trying to be 1s and 2s, which that's not a good thing. Next, we got Browns Jets. Browns 16, Jets 23. Mayfield with 285 passing yards. He had 3 fumbles and lost 2 of them. Nick Chubb with 11 rushing attempts, 28 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kareem Hunt also had a touchdown. They only had 45 rushing yards as a team. Hooper with 7 catches, 71 yards. Darnold with 175 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Crowder also had a touchdown, which was to Berrios for 43 yards. Gore with 14 rushing attempts for 48 yards. They had 131 rushing yards as a team. Crowder with 7 catches, 92 yards, and 1 touchdown. Berrios with 3 catches, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown. Herndon also had 1 touchdown. They had 4 sacks as a team. Mayfield is now 1-9 when being sacked 4 or more times. This Browns team did not look like a Browns team, especially against this Jets team that's been losing all year. And after coming off their first win, now they got 2 consecutive wins. Um, that this should never have happened. The Browns shouldn't have been down. The Browns shouldn't have lost to the Jets. Not this year anyway. This Jets team make this Browns team look like a Jets team. You know, their defense didn't do anything. Their offense couldn't do anything. You have the best rush offense in the league, and you only put up 45 yards. That's Frank Gore had more yards than your team. That's bad. This shouldn't happen. You're already fighting for a playoff spot, and then you lose to the Jets, and you lose this late in the season. Speaking of Frank Gore, he also joins Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton as the only running backs in NFL history with 16,000 or more career rushing yards. So congrats to Frank Gore for joining that list. It's just crazy how that game ended. Next, we got Giants-Ravens. Giants 13, Ravens 27. Daniel Jones with 252 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Gallman with 6 attempts, 27 yards. They had 54 rushing yards as a team. Shepard with 9 catches, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. Ingram with 7 catches, 65 yards. Lamar Jackson, 183 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 13 rushing attempts for 80 yards, and he lost a fumble. Edwards with 15 attempts, 85 yards. Dobbins with 11 attempts, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 249 rushing yards as a team. Andrews with 6 catches, 76 yards. Brown and Dez Bryant had a touchdown each. They had 6 sacks as a team. So Jackson is the first quarterback in NFL history with 900 or more rushing yards in consecutive seasons. Ravens have 200 or more rush yards for the 14th time since 2019. That's the most such games in the NFL in that span. This Ravens team is looking good. This Giants team was pretty decent anyway, and for them to put up the numbers that they did on this Giants defense just embarrassed them. 249 rushing yards. You let Lamar Jackson have a good game. He had that fumble loss, but no interceptions. He had 2 touchdowns. They had 6 sacks. This defense is looking better. I mean, they've always looked good anyway, but they're starting to look better. This Ravens team is good, but they're not good enough to make a run in the playoffs, and they're still showing it. We'll see what happens. Jackson is still, he almost put up 200 passing yards, which is pretty good to me in his ability and in his standards, I guess. But we'll see what happens in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to do much. Like I said, they're not going to be good enough to make a run in the playoffs. Next, we got the Browns-Jags. Bears-Jags. Bears 41, Jags 17. Trubisky had 265 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had a rushing touchdown. Montgomery with 23 attempts, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. Artavius Pierce also had a touchdown. They had 128 rushing yards as a team. Robinson with 10 catches, 103 yards. Jimmy Graham with 4 catches, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Roquan Smith had 2 interceptions. Glennon with 211 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Ogunbowale, 14 attempts, 71 yards. They had 76 rushing yards as a team. Shark with 4 catches, 62 yards, 1 touchdown. Shenault had 5 catches, 48 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Bears now have 100 or more rushing yards in each of Trubisky's 8 starts this season. They've also scored 30 or more points in 4 straight games, which in those 4 games, they've played defenses that were ranked in the bottom 6. 4 of those teams were in the bottom 6 anyway, which I'm not knocking the Bears, but they're starting to look in rhythm. They're starting to finally look like how they did at the beginning of the season. Trubisky being benched and sitting out a few games, put his mind back in ease or put his mind back focused and back in the game because he's starting to play better. The Jags have allowed a 100-yard receiver in 10 of their last 11 games. This Jags team is just struggling, period. They're going to have the number 1 pick in the draft, and they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. The quarterback core that they have is horrible. The rest of the draft picks they need to make, on defense. Their offense is pretty decent. They got pretty good, weapons, but their defense is just is like it's like they're not playing. Next, we got Colts Steelers. Colts 24, Steelers 28. Rivers with 270 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, also a fumble loss. Jonathan Taylor with 18 rushing attempts, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hines with 8 attempts, 44 yards. He also had 5 catches for 20 yards. They had 127 rushing yards as a team. Pascal with 3 catches, 64 yards, 1 touchdown. Hilton with 3 catches, 60 yards. Roethlisberger with 342 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Connor with 5 attempts, 20 yards, and 1 touchdown. Smith-Schuster with 9 catches, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. Johnson with 8 catches, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Ebron with 5 catches and 1 touchdown. They had 5 sacks as a team. Steelers defense has 11 games with 2 or more takeaways this season, which is most in the NFL. And Rivers has tied Hall of Famer Dan Marino for 5th most passing touchdowns in NFL history at 420. This game shouldn't have ended the way it ended. The Colts had the game. The Colts were up. They had the momentum to finish the game, to win the game, and then the Steelers made their comeback. The Steelers were close to losing 4 consecutive games. Ben didn't allow that. Big Ben was like mentally in the game that he was not going to lose 4 straight games. The Steelers team is looking better. This game they look better. They're trying to catch that momentum, trying to catch that rhythm going into the playoffs. They got the playoff spot. They got the division, the AFC North, and their defense is looking good. They just got to keep that going into the playoffs, and we'll see how far they go. Next, we got Panthers Washington. Panthers 20, Washington 13. Bridgewater with 197 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 2 fumbles and lost 1 of them. Davis with 14 attempts, 28 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 113 rushing yards as a team. Samuel with 5 catches, 106 yards. He also had 7 rushing attempts for 52 yards. Anderson with 7 catches, 39 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 3 sacks as a team. Haskins, 154 passing yards, 2 interceptions. He was benched and also had a fumble loss, but he was benched. Bringing in Heineke with 137 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Gibson with 10 attempts, 61 yards, 108 yards as a team. McKessick had 8 catches, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. Thomas with 7 catches, 63 yards. They had 4 sacks as a team. Haskins was released Monday after the game. He didn't have the morale, the locker room presence. He had too much drama around him, too much drama going on for this team to be where they're at. 1 game away from the playoffs, and having his presence was not making it better for this Washington team, especially in the locker room and on the field. And this Washington team is just struggling. They've allowed 2 or more sacks in each of the 15 games this season, and they're the only team in the NFL that's done that. This Washington team is not bad, but they're not good. They're still building. Hopefully they get Alex Smith back. That's how they're gonna win. They're gonna win with Alex Smith. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. They got pretty good weapons, pretty good young guys, and they're on the path to build a good franchise. Next, we got Broncos Chargers. Broncos 16, Chargers 19. Locke with 264 passing yards, 2 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. Gordon with 16 attempts, 79 yards. They had 133 rushing yards as a team. Deshaun Hamilton with 5 catches, 77 yards. Font with 6 catches, 65 yards. And Judy with 6 catches, 61 yards. Justin Herbert, 253 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He had 4 rushing attempts for 26 yards. Eckler with 10 attempts, 45 yards, and a receiving touchdown. They had 89 rushing yards as a team. Mike Williams with 4 catches, 54 yards. Anderson with 4 catches, 48 yards. Bagley was 4 for 4 from field goals. Herbert now has the record for the most passing touchdowns by a rookie in NFL history at 28. He could add a couple more in this last game. We'll see what happens. He's the 4th rookie in NFL history with 4,000 or more passing yards also. This Chargers team is looking good. They caught the momentum right here at the end of the season. Herbert is their future. Just need a little bit more on the defense. Maybe a couple more weapons around Herbert. You know, you got Keenan Allen, but he was out. You just got to add like 2 more receivers with him, and you're going to be good. Next, we got Eagles, Cowboys. Eagles 17, Cowboys 37. Hurts with 342 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He had 9 rushing attempts for 69 yards, and he had 2 fumbles and lost 1 of them. Sanders with 15 rushing attempts, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 151 rushing yards as a team. Deshaun Jackson with 1 catch, 81 yards with the touchdown. That's another 80 or more yard receiving touchdown for him. Andy Dalton with 377 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Elliott with 19 attempts, 105 yards. They had 151 rushing yards as a team. Cooper with 4 catches, 121 yards. Gallup with 6 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Lamb with 3 catches, 65 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a rushing touchdown. They had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on this defense. Zerline was 3 for 3 from field goals. This Dallas defense has 3 more takeaways in 3 straight games, and they're +9 in takeaways in the last 3 games. This Cowboys team has been looking good. They're catching momentum coming in late into the season. They still got a chance to make the playoffs, 1 game away. They also need Washington to lose so they can get in, because that win gives them the division, and the division gives you a playoff spot. Going into the playoffs with a losing record is pretty interesting, especially like the way this defense has been playing, the way the offense has been playing. They're getting chemistry going with Andy. They're catching a rhythm with him, and they're looking good. Mike McCarthy is starting to, he's helping with helping this team find their identity, and they found it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs. The Eagles are good. They're going to be, they're going to be okay. They got Washington coming up this game also. Jalen Hurts is the future of this Eagles franchise. Next, we got Rams, Seahawks. Rams 9, Seahawks 20. Goff with 234 passing yards, 1 interception. Darrell Henderson with 12 attempts, 62 yards, 118 rushing yards as a team. Kupp with 8 catches, 66 yards. Reynolds with 6 catches, 65 yards. They had 5 sacks as a team. Matt Gay was 3 for 3 from field goals. Wilson with 225 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. Carson with 16 attempts, 69 yards. They had 95 rushing yards as a team. DK Metcalf with 6 catches, 59 yards. They had 3 sacks as a team. With the Seahawks win, they clinched the NFC West. This Rams team is leading the NFL in total defense for the first time since 1978, which they're allowing 285.6 total yards per game. For you to lead the NFL in total defense, you still allowed the Seahawks team to win, but that's not all on you. This offense is not that good. This offense is still working out its kinks, I guess you could say. And then with the injury to Goff, that's going to make it a little bit more harder, especially with this last game and needing to win this last game to get into the playoffs. There's just some adjustments that need to be made on this Rams offense. Next, we got Titans-Packers. On the Sunday night game, Titans 14, Packers 40. Tannehill with 121 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He had 3 rushing attempts for 55 yards and 1 touchdown. Derrick Henry with 23 attempts, 98 yards. They had 156 rushing yards as a team. Brown with 4 catches, 43 yards. Jonnu Smith with 3 catches, 30 yards, and 1 touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, 231 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. A.J. Dillon with 21 rushing attempts, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jones with 10 attempts, 94 yards. They had 234 rushing yards as a team. Devontae Adams, 11 catches, 142 yards, and 3 touchdowns. St. Brown also had a receiving touchdown. 1 reception, 1 touchdown. Aaron Rodgers is now 68-1-1 at home when leading at halftime as a starter, and this is including the playoffs. They're 15-2 at home since 2019, and that's including the playoffs also. Packers are looking to be the number 1 seed. So with a record like that, in the NFC, NFC playoffs is going to be scary, especially if the Browns can get that number 1 spot, win their last game of the season, which they need that to get that first that number 1 spot and the bye. And to be winning at Lambeau like that, it is scary for these other NFC teams. Aaron Rodgers is playing an MVP season. The MVP race is going to be close with him in it. This defense is starting to look a little bit better. They're starting to play better, and the NFC is going to go through Green Bay, and this season that's going to be a scary thing. Finally, we got the Bills-Patriots on the Monday night game. Bills 38, Patriots 9. Josh Allen with 320 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 4 rushing attempts for 35 yards. Zach Moss, 12 rushing attempts, 57 yards, and 1 touchdown. Singletary with 10 attempts, 36 yards. They had 130 rushing yards as a team. Stephon Diggs, 9 catches, 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Lee Smith with 2 catches, 1 touchdown. They had 3 sacks as a team. Newton had 34 passing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. He was benched. Stidham came in and 44 passing yards. Sony Michel with 10 rushing attempts, 69 yards. They had 145 rushing yards as a team. Jacoby Myers, 4 catches, 45 yards. This is the Patriots' first losing season since 2000. This Patriots team hasn't been good. They're trying to lead a team behind Cam. Cam is not your answer. Cam is not Cam anymore. Defenses just know how to play against Cam and how to stop him. This allows the Bills to sweep the Patriots for the first time in the season since '99. Josh Allen also passed Jim Kelly for most passing touchdowns in a single season in Bills history at 34. Stephon Diggs is also leading the NFL in catches with 120 and receiving yards at 1,459. This Bills team is looking great. They've caught the rhythm. They've caught that momentum. They're putting up points, putting up numbers, and they're playing like they're playing at full speed in every game. And it's crazy because from what I see and from what I can tell, they're cruising. For this team to be cruising the way that they have been and the way that they are going into the playoffs, it's going to be hard to win against this Buffalo team. This Bills team is good. Their defense is doing a little bit better. Their run game is doing better. Josh Allen is having an MVP season. He's great. He's playing like there's no one else on the field. I've said this on my Instagram before the Monday night game that Josh Allen and the Bills can get into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and win. This Bills team can beat the Chiefs, and it's not scary, but it's gonna be very interesting to see, especially if Bills hold off on the number 2 spot. That means they'll meet up in the AFC Championship game. For this game to be played in the AFC Championship game is going to be very entertaining, very interesting, and it's going to be some really good football. It's really going to come down to whose defense is going to make that last stop. They can make a few stops in the game, but it's all going to come down to the last stop. But it's going to be hard for this Chiefs team to beat this Bills team. Now it's kind of like the other, now it's starting to look like the other way around, which it used to be it's going to be hard for teams to beat the Chiefs, or it's going to be hard for teams to keep up with the Chiefs. It's just going to be very interesting. Week 17 is coming up. There's so many scenarios going around. 7 out of the 14 playoff spots are filled. So with 7 still left, it made this NFL season very entertaining, especially coming down to the last week of the season, last game of the season. We're going to see who's going to get in, who's not going to get in. We're going to see we could see a 10-win team not get in. We can possibly see a 11-win team not get in. And that's on the AFC side. And it's just going to lead into a very good playoff this season. Well, that's all the BS I have for this episode. Until next time.